Today's video is going to be about Mafia. Crime is the family business. And now let's begin. In 2003, there was released a game that would be the talk of the town. A game with an open world where you could do whatever you wanted and had complete freedom. The name of the game was Mafia, the City of Lost Heaven, which in my opinion was actually one of the best titles for a video game ever. The graphics were really impressive back then, and the story was pretty solid. Of course, this all led to the creation of a cult following. So much so that even today, more than 15 years later, the community is still very active. And recently they've been trying to get a remastered version of the original game. But unfortunately, we still don't have it. Maybe someday in the future, though. Who knows? For those who haven't played it or are too young to remember, the game took place in the fictional city of Lost Heaven, which was heavily inspired by the city of St. Louis in the USA during the 1930s. You play as Tommy Angelo, an ordinary taxi driver who gets caught up in the world of organized crime after he accidentally kills 3 gangsters while driving his taxi, then becomes friends with a member of the Italian Mafia family, Salieri, and slowly climbs the ranks from a low-level soldier to eventually becoming the boss of your own Mafia family. The game also features an interesting moral system, which is similar to what we see in the Grand Theft Auto games, where you can either become a good guy and turn over a new leaf, or a bad guy and continue down the path of crime. But unlike GTA and Mafia 1, if you choose to go down the straight and narrow road, the ending will be bittersweet and leave you wanting more. It's kind of sad, but I won't spoil anything for those who haven't played it yet. I think the reason why people enjoyed it so much was because the game offered something different to what other games at the time had to offer. It was like a breath of fresh air. There weren't many games set in the 1930s, and even fewer that focused on the Mafia. Also, the characters felt real, the voice acting was great, and the cutscenes felt just like a movie. Another thing that stood out was the soundtrack. It fit the setting perfectly. And it's interesting to note that the composer of the music, Andrea Bocelli, is actually the father of the lead singer from the band Il Volo, who sang the popular song My Heart Will Go On. From the Titanic soundtrack, after the success of the first game, 2 sequels were released. The second game was called Mafia 2 and came out in 2010. It was set in the fictional Empire Bay, which was heavily inspired by New York City. In the 1940s and 1950s, this game had a linear story which disappointed some fans. But overall, it still had solid writing, and the addition of a multiplayer mode was a nice touch. I personally think that the graphics were way too flashy compared to the first game, which made it look less realistic. But this was probably done on purpose, since technology had improved and they wanted to show off what they were capable of. There was then a long wait until the 3rd installment came out. Finally, in 2016, Mafia 3 was released. This time around, the game was set in New Orleans during the 1960s and featured an African-American hitman named Lincoln Clay who seeks revenge on the Italian Mafia after they murdered his family. Unlike the previous games, it featured an open map where you could complete missions however you wanted. Some people liked this idea, but others preferred the more linear approach of Mafia 2. The main character was also more serious and brooding, which didn't appeal to everyone. Despite this, the game got generally positive reviews and was a commercial success, selling over 5 million copies worldwide. Unfortunately, the series has been rather quiet since then, but hopefully we'll see another game sometime in the near future. In fact, there was a spin-off strategy game released in 2021 called Mafia Definitive Edition. However, I wouldn't exactly call it a true Mafia game, although I must say that the graphics looked pretty good. What I want to focus on now is the first game, Mafia, the City of Lost Heaven. Not only did this game have amazing graphics for its time, but it also introduced us to some very iconic cars. One of them being the 1934 Ford 5-window coupe. This beautiful hot rod was used by the main character, Tommy, in the opening scene when he accidentally hits and kills 3 gangsters. Later in the game, it's also used by the police in the memorable high-speed chase through the streets of Lost Heaven. In the game, it's driven by Sergeant, and his name is spelled incorrectly. Many people have wondered whether this was done on purpose, as an Easter egg, or simply a mistake. Either way, the car looks awesome in the game, and has become a symbol of the series. Another cool car from the same movie that appears in Mafia is the 1932 Ford Roadster. This is the car that Frank Nitti, one of the main antagonists of the game, uses to drive around town. In the game, there's actually a mission where you can steal it for the first time. Later on, the player can actually purchase it and use it whenever they want. Once again, this car also further establishes the connection between the game and the Great Depression era. The 1930s was a time when people were struggling financially and cars were seen as a luxury item. Hot rods and custom cars were therefore built to make older models more enjoyable to drive. If you're a fan of the Mafia games, I'm sure you already know about the 1938 Chrysler Royal. It's also known as the Boneyard. This car plays a huge role in the storyline and is used by the most powerful gangster in Lost Heaven, Aldon Salieri. The car is heavily customized with bulletproof glass and armor plating, hence the name. It's also equipped with a .45 caliber Thompson machine gun mounted on the roof, which is used to mow down anyone who dares oppose Salieri. There are multiple missions where you have to drive this car, but they aren't exactly fun since you're almost always under attack. Luckily, it handles pretty well despite the large size and weight. Another famous car from the game is the 1937 Chevrolet Master Deluxe. Oh! This was the car that Tommy drives when he starts his taxi business. It's a humble beginning for a taxi driver, but the car is surprisingly well detailed and reflects the grime and dirt of the era. In the game, it costs $200, which is quite expensive for the performance you get. But hey, for a taxi, it's not bad. And finally, let's take a look at the 1939 Chevrolet truck. This is the vehicle that Tommy uses to transport illegal goods in the game. It's a work in progress and looks somewhat unfinished, but it gets the job done. Interestingly, this truck is based on a real-life vehicle that can be found at the Mantorville, Minnesota, USA, Museum of the Big Time. Now, I should mention that these are just the cars that I thought were the coolest looking ones. There are actually a lot more vehicles in the game, such as buses, motorcycles, fire trucks, police cars, and even boats. Unfortunately, the boat handling isn't that great. I remember that one time I tried to dock a boat and ended up sinking it immediately. One last thing I want to talk about is the soundtrack. I already mentioned that the music is fantastic and sets the tone for each scene perfectly. What I didn't realize until recently is that the song I Am, Just a Poor Boy from a Poor Family plays during the end credits. Now that song doesn't seem to fit the game at first, since it's about a poor boy who dreams of becoming rich and successful. But if you think about it, the main character Tommy Angelo is literally that. At the beginning of the game, he's an ordinary taxi driver who stumbles into the world of organized crime. As the game progresses, he becomes increasingly wealthy and powerful. And by the end of the game, he becomes the boss of his own mafia family. So yeah, in a way, the song does fit the game after all. I could go on and on about the game, but I don't want to spoil anything for those who haven't played it yet. If you haven't played it before, I highly recommend it. You can get it on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. And it's also backwards compatible on the Xbox One. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Thank you for watching.